So we were meant to record a podcast last week.
And what happened?
We did a video instead to plug the podcast. Talk about it.
Do you think we're video type people?
You know, we did one. You arm twisted me into doing one after 10 years. And I don't think...
I arm twisted you.
Yeah, well, we'll talk about that later. But I don't think instinctively we are lights, camera, action kind of people.
Do you think it was too much jhanjat?
Too much jhanjat, you know, get dressed and do the lights. And I think basically you and I are both, let's just... put the fader up or press the record button and go for it.
But hasn't radio gone that way as well, that nowadays there's always a camera in the radio station?
Yeah, and you have enough people complaining about the fact that once upon a time radio was meant to, you know, fuel your imagination, and you had to conjure up the pictures in your head. But now all that charm is virtually going every single day.
Well, anyway, if you want to see the video, you can, because it's on our socials, which is Shabby And Man on Instagram and Twitter. Is that correct?
Yep, that is. Welcome to the Shabby And Man podcast. We are partners, parents, podcasters, broadcasters.
And everything else in between.
And today we're going to talk about some of the things that we've been talking about, not off air, what do you say? Off podcast all week?
Off podcast, yeah.
Off podcast all week. I think the biggest story worldwide was American politics.
Oh, yeah, both Trump and Joe Biden's new running mate.
Yes. And in particular, of course, we are interested in Joe Biden's running mate, Kamala Harris. She was in the news. She was all over the papers.
You know, she identifies herself as a black American, which is fair enough because her father was, a coincidence or irony probably, is that her father was also called Donald J. Harris. And he was a top, professor at Stanford in economics.
Yeah. But she's equally proud of the fact that her mother was Indian. Her mother was from Chennai. Dad was from Jamaica. Both immigrants.
Yeah, Shamala Gopalan.
Shamala Gopalan. So she's been talking about both. In fact, you know, I thought one of the newsreaders had got it wrong when they said that it's the first time that a black candidate has, because at the start I just thought her ethnicity was only Asian. I didn't know that her father was from Jamaica. Now, of course, the whole world does.
You mean a black woman?
A black woman, yes. So this is the big news, and you know, Bridget, there's nothing Asians like more than claiming people as their own and celebrating the fact that, you know, they have gone to another country and they've worked hard and they've made something out of their lives.
She was born in America.
She was born in America, and she's, you know, now she's in a position where she could potentially be the American vice president at the next election. So naturally people are talking about it a lot. And
it's what? It's Kamala as in Lotus?
Kamal Kapoor, Kamala as in Lotus, yes. A bit like my dadi's name, which was Kamalini, again, but all related to Lotus. And she's been, you know, I was reading somewhere today that she has named her 50 best books of all time or something, and it's got all the usual suspects like Khalid Hosseini's The Kite Runner and many, many very interesting titles. And you know how when people... It is a reflection. It is a reflection of what she likes, what resonates with her. And
doesn't Barack Obama do one every year?
Yes, he does one every year as well. He does.
And this time I think he put William Dalrymple's book in it.
He did, yeah. He did 2019, and he only picks 10 books out of all the books that he reads. Only 10. And he recommended The Anarchy by William Dalrymple, which is what made it a global bestseller. So everyone's talking about Kamala Harris and the books that she's chosen, and the fact that I believe she's had quite an impressive track record as...
she was the DA, if you watch American.
Yeah, in LA, right? Or California, wherever. So that's been one of the big stories. Also, you were saying something about Donald Trump and Thailand?
Yeah, he was in the news because he said Thailand, and everyone ridiculed him and said it's Thailand. And then someone defended it by saying, but they say Thailand in India and in Australia. And you do, don't you? So accents is a very... what is it? It's a very strange thing. You can't really have a go at him for that.
You can never knock someone's accent because it only means that they speak.
No, not that it's his accent. I mean, it's not that he did that, but
yeah. I mean, you say this to me all the time that my accent is two ends of the spectrum.
I do. Sometimes I sound like you've just had tea with the Queen.
Yes.
With your clipped. We all should do this.
Well, one has to speak properly.
And other days you say things like unprecedented, which is a very Indian way of saying unprecedented.
Well, I grew up saying unprecedented, and there's some words which I know I say it in a very Indian way, but you know what? I'm not apologetic about that at all.
No, you shouldn't be. I think it's very good that you say it the way you say it.
Yeah. So Thailand, one and the same thing, I think. I don't think that's... In fact, nothing Donald Trump ever does is actually defendable But if there's one thing that we can say, it's okay to say Thailand, right? So American politics, Kamala and Donald both in the news. What else have we been talking about? What else have we been watching, reading?
Oh, we got a chance to watch that. We saw the first episode, well, thanks to you, before it was aired, of Churails.
Yes.
Which is Pakistani
drama.
Is it a drama?
It is a drama, yes.
I suppose.
Yeah.
A series, a Pakistani series, which is controversially airing on an Indian channel.
Yeah.
It's on Z5, isn't it?
That's one of the reasons why people are talking about it. First thing, that Pakistani drama, controversial Pakistani drama, airing on an Indian digital platform. What did you make of it? Should we tell? Now, it's streaming already, so people have probably seen it. But for those who haven't, Churails.
We had different viewpoints.
We did.
You really, really liked it, didn't you? I mean, it was controversial. It was bold. It is out there on a limb, and it is different. So I agree with all those things. But I thought it was a bit... I've only seen the first episode. I thought it was a bit man-bashing, man-hating kind of...
And you thought that it was a mishmash of other dramas that you had seen?
It just felt like a little bit of Made in Heaven, a little bit of 4 shots of tequila, a big dollop of the First Lady's Detective Agency, garnished with a bit of Sex in the City.
And Desperate Housewives as well, I think.
There was a bit of Desperate Housewives.
I would like to correct you there. It's not that I loved it. I felt that the first episode was promising. Again, both of us had only seen the preview episode then. It hadn't started streaming. It had shock value, enough to pin you to your seat. Because it is everything that you don't expect a Pakistani drama to be. Even small things, and as many people have pointed out, even small things which would never even register on your radar in any other dramas where, a married couple where the husband is lovingly pecking his wife on the forehead, in a scene. Even these things are being magnified only because they've never before been seen on film in Pakistan. So it had, and that is just one of the minor things.
No, I agree with the shock value. Do you think they were just putting in swear words for the sake of it?
So that's what I want to see. I would have, we're people we're extremely impatient about these things. Both of us know that, right? Because our time together is precious. We hardly ever sit down and watch anything together. And if something doesn't grab us, we don't care how much people love it or what the world is saying, we switch it off. But both of us, actually, we sat through the whole thing.
That's right. And you're right. I would like to see some more episodes.
Yeah, I think
you have to give it a chance.
Yeah, we have to give it a chance. And it's made a promising start. And in their defense, I mean, we've seen another film by the same director, which we loved. Asim Abbasi made Cake. We watched it some years ago, remember?
Yes.
We actually enjoyed it a lot. But again, then also I remember after watching it, one of the first things we were saying was, my God, the language or the fact that the girl is seen smoking, all of these things you don't
associate. The director is English, I think. I think he's from Leeds or somewhere.
He's from Britain, yes. So I think it's made a promising start. And the director and the 4 lead actresses, I believe all of them are defending it by saying that about time you reflected our reality and stopped sugarcoating everything or, sweeping things under the carpet, saying that, because our culture doesn't allow it, or it's not exactly what we've been known for. It's time all that changed. So I think we have to give it a chance, you're right, and watch a few more episodes before we can finally make up our minds on Churails.
I was going to say, because you're quite an expert on Pakistani dramas.
I am.
You always like to tell me stories of how you grew up watching them.
Yes.
So what happened? They used to come to India?
I think it started...
Or you used to get them on DVD kind of videos?
Videos, and it's pirate copies as well.
When I say video, I mean cassette tapes.
Cassette tapes and pirate copies as well, because I don't think officially they were allowed to be, unless you lived in the in Jammu and Kashmir or in Punjab border areas where you could watch some of them on television. And I've always felt that while the Pakistani film industry has taken its time to really emerge as a force to reckon with, for some strange reason, their films have never worked as well as Bollywood films. They were always considered inferior. But again, miraculously, their TV dramas have always been far superior than any of the Saas Bahu stuff that the Ekta Kapoors and those who've come before or after have rolled out. Pakistan has always had a very strong tradition of fantastic television dramas, and therefore, I mean, this is completely in a different, I won't say genre.
It's a different direction.
But it's a different direction, and probably this is the point at which they're planning to make that leap into a new century and address millennials and a whole new crowd. And this is right from the start, you can see that it's got the gloss, it's got the rustic feel, it's got 4 women from 4 different strata of society.
That's right, like 2 are quite well off and 2 are not.
Well off and posh, and they're living in houses which have swimming pools, and then you've got the other end of the story as well. So yeah, they've tried to kind of keep everyone happy, and I would love to watch a few more to see how it pans out. Speaking of Pakistani films and Indian films, one of I wouldn't describe him as a Bollywood poet, but one of India's most loved poets and shairs, Rahat Indore, passed away last week.
I know. So he was known as Indori because he lived in Indore.
Because he lived in Indore. And I didn't know much about him. In fact, I knew a lot of his writing, but I didn't know that he had written it. It was only after he passed away and I was, wanting to talk about him.
He wrote a couple of Bollywood...
yes, he worked on a couple of... he worked on a couple of Bollywood films like Murder and Ishq and Munna Bhai MBBS, a few songs here and there. But I believe he went the other way completely from Gulzar and Javed Akhtar, who, by the way, were the first 2 people to pay tribute when he passed away. He went the other way thinking that Bollywood was very commercial and that it kind of... Bollywood always tries to pigeonhole your creativity and push it a certain way. If you're a true, driven, creative... what should I say, a free soul, then you don't want to always do what Bollywood...
You don't want to be in their constraints.
You don't want to be within the constraints of a Bollywood formula.
Now, I remember, I've said this before, but growing up, when I used to live in Uttar Pradesh, in the UP area, there used to be a huge...
Uttar Pradesh is a state, you do know that, right? Any particular city you'd like to mention?
When I used to live in Gorakhpur, which is the name of the city, which for people who don't know is very close to Lucknow and Banaras and Allahabad and Kanpur.
Yes.
So they were all next to each other.
Yeah.
And a great thing that used to happen there was when I started hanging out with the IT crowd, there used to be Kavi Sammelans. What's the other word for it?
It's Mushaira.
Yeah, Mushairas.
Yeah.
In my head, Mushaira I think is like courtesans dancing.
No, but that's not a mujra.
Yeah, so that's why I get confused. That's why in my head I just say Kavi Sammelan because I'm never sure what I'm saying there.
Yeah.
So they used to be fantastic. We sit on these gaddas late at night.
For those who don't know, these normally happen through the night. They start late in the evening, through the night.
You drink, you sip hot tea.
In a kullad.
Yeah.
So you've got a few snacks and drinks going on and people sit, as you're saying, gaddas
and you hear these poets. You wear a shawl and you hear these poets through the night.
Yeah.
Sometimes Sufi singers.
And
fantastic.
It's funny you should say that because that's what people are saying, that Rahat Indore apparently was the life and soul of these mushairas. They were saying that he would be the showstopper. So organizers would beg and plead with him to be the last act because if he came on too early, people would just leave after that. There was no way of surpassing what he had said. And when you read up on him, you find out that, he was a great political commentator. He was extremely vocal about his views on politics, religion, on social matters, and he had a great sense of humor. All the ingredients that you need to be truly representative of what the people are talking about, what they're thinking, a people's poet.
That's why when he passed away last week, there were lots of... as well as tributes, there were a lot of haters as well because he's very political.
He's very political, and any time where he feels that the government is being too right-wing or, they are deliberately going out of the way to antagonize the Muslims in India, he's always taken a stand. In fact, there are 2 lines from his poem which became very iconic because people started quoting them when they said that, the government is too right-wing or too far right or, they're trying to make India a Hindu state, whereas India was always a secular country where Hindus and Muslims have lived side by side and contributed equally to the culture of India. So the last 2 lines became quite iconic, but I'd like to read out a few more lines from that.
Let's hear it then.
He says, अगर खिलाफ हैं दोनों, होने दो जान थोड़ी है. ये सब धुआं है, कोई आसमान थोड़ी है. लगेगी आग तो आएंगे घर कई जद में, यहाँ पे सिर्फ हमारा मकान थोड़ी है. जो आज साहिबे मनसद हैं कल नहीं होंगे, किराएदार हैं जाती मकान थोड़ी है. And then the 2 lines. सभी का खून है शामिल यहाँ की मिट्टी में, किसी के बाप का हिंदुस्तान थोड़ी है. Amazing, isn't that amazing? So he passed away and tributes came pouring in from people who knew him, people who knew his work and people who knew what his writings meant to the common man. So that was another story that we were interested in. What else? There was something else what I was really passionate about.
Yeah, I know what it was.
What?
The fact that Shahid Kapoor...
yes.
Wasn't he voted one of the best Hamlets?
Yeah, so Shahid Kapoor did the Bollywood version of Hamlet, which was Heather, which was a Vishal Bhardwaj film. And apparently Shahid Kapoor's interpretation of Hamlet filmy interpretation, has been voted one of the top 10 film Hamlets, or Hamlets on film, across the world.
I don't know if I agree with that, really.
No, but I mean, I've not seen Heather, so I would not
But
be...
Vishal Bhardwaj always does Shakespeare plays. doesn't
Vishal Bhardwaj is passionate about Shakespeare.
he? So I always remember O for Othello, O for Omkar,
Yeah, Omkara.
Omkara.
Yeah.
What was the other one?
M for Makbool, M for Macbeth.
Yeah.
You know, and Heather and Hamlet. And he always champions Shakespeare's works, and he says that he's a big fan of Shakespearean tragedies, and he's gone on record enough times to say that, you know, everything that Shakespeare wrote 400 years ago is relevant to this day. If you look at it, you know, he spoke about love, about lust, about power, about betrayal, about, you know, what you call the human condition. Things that never change, things that are timeless, and things that can be just moved around from one culture to the other, and they would be just as relevant even today.
Did you do Hamlet in school?
I didn't, no.
Well, obviously I must have done it because it's in the back of my head, and we were all made to watch a movie. So for me, this 1948 movie is a definitive Hamlet for me.
Who starred in it?
It's not just starred in it, he also directed it. Larry, as people in the business call him, Sir Laurence Olivier.
So Laurence Olivier, yeah, okay.
Oh, sorry, Lord Olivier by the time he died.
So this was, you know, Heather is something I have to watch, but I was particularly taken by Omkara, Othello, which I thought was a brilliant interpretation of taking a story which is completely set in a different culture, different time, different part of the world, and Indianizing it, and not just that, setting it in rural India, because it is about power struggle. It is about lust, it is about greed, it is about that hunger to cling on to something, you know, which you think makes you the hero in people's eyes. And Saif Ali Khan pulling out one of his best performances as Langra Tyagi. You also had Konkona Sen Sharma, you had Bipasha Basu, you had Ajay Devgan. So yeah, I'm not surprised that Heather has resonated with people around the world, even those who are essentially...
who are the other ones that were with it? I think there was Ethan Hawke.
Ethan Hawke, Mel Gibson, I think,
Mel
right?
Gibson.
Mel Gibson, lots of other people. So that's another big story, and I think it calls for a re-watch. I think we should watch Omkara again and watch Makbool and Heather for the first time.
We should indeed.
Yeah. So I think that's about it, right? Anything else that we'd like to talk about? Or since I mentioned Langra Tyagi and Saif Ali Khan's 50th birthday today as well.
And Manisha Koirala.
And Manisha Koirala. Lots of people we know, 1970 born people in our family, amongst friends, in the world of showbiz, all turning 50 this year.
Telling us how we're getting old slowly.
Yeah, I'm not saying they're all our contemporaries. They could be your contemporaries or juniors. But yeah, they're people we know and love. Well, that's it then. Until our next podcast, which is not going to be on video. Do all the things that you have to do, please. Which is what? Which is download us, rate us, recommend us, leave a comment if you really want to. And
even if you don't really want to.
Even if you don't really want to. And follow us on our platforms. But first and foremost, regardless of whether or not you do any of those things, thank you so much for listening.
Until next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.